Hello everyone. Under the management theory discussion, today I am going to discuss with you theory of constraints. The short form we call it as TOC, theory of constraint. This concept actually introduced by Eliyahu M. Goldratt. So that is why I have included in here a management philosophy by Eliyahu M. Goldratt. So this is the introduction part developed by Dr. Eliyahu M. Goldratt in 1984 through the book The Goal. So that means this Dr. Eliyahu M. Goldratt, he wrote the book in 1984, that book named The Goal. Okay, under this book, this concept he introduced. So, what are the focuses? What is the main focus? Identifying and improving the system's bottleneck to enhance the performance. That means if we want to enhance the performance, we have to identify the system's bottleneck. Then after we identify the bottleneck, we can find out the solution. Principle is every system has a constraint that limits its output. So that means when we consider the any system, there can be some constraint. So because of that constraints, output, performance, efficiency can be limited. So that is the principle. So again, I'm going through the introduction developed by Dr. Eliyahu M. Goldratt in 1984 through the book called The Goal. The focus is identifying and improving the system's bottleneck to enhance performance. Principle, every system has a constraint that limits its output. Now, core concepts of TOC, theory of constraints. You can see constraint, any factor that limit system performance. So if there is a factor, if that limit the system performance, that is called constraint. That is called constraint. Then throughput. So what is mean by the throughput? Rate of generating money through sales. So that is called throughput. Then inventory is another term. Money invested in products intended for sale. So that is called inventory. Then operating expense, money is spent turning inventory into throughputs. Okay, so this is the core concept. Now you can see here the 5 focusing steps. When we discuss about the TOC, theory of constraints, there are 5 focusing steps. The first one, identify the constraints, then exploit the constraint, subordinate everything else, elevate the constraint, then repeat the process. So these are the 5 focusing steps. Now we can discuss what is the meaning of these focusing steps. Identify the constraint. Okay, we'll go through that. This is the first and most critical step. A constraint is any factor that limits the system's output or performance. It could be a bottleneck in production, a policy, a lack of skills, poor planning, or even market demand also. As an example, you can think in a garment factory, if the sewing section can only produce 800 pieces per day, while all other departments can handle 1200. So sewing section is the constraint because each and every other department producing 1200. This is as example, okay? But sewing section produce only 800. So even though other department produce 1200, it is meaningless because sewing can produce only the 800 pieces. So because of that, we call sewing section is the constraint. Okay, why? A constraint is any factor that limit the system output. So in here, so factor limit the system output is sewing section because they produce only 800 pieces. Okay. Then exploit the constraint, the second focus. Once the constraint is identified, make the most effective use of it without investing additional resources. That is also very important. Without investing additional resources. This means ensuring that the constraint is working at its full potential without downtime, efficiency, or waste. So, according to the our example, so we have to ensure sewing machines are always running during working hours, eliminate changeover delays, and assign the most skilled operators to the constraint area because now we have to handle the constraint, we have to exploit the constraint. So what we are going to do, we are going to strengthen the sewing area. So we create norm, always sewing machine want to run, eliminate the changeover delays, and we can allocate skill operators because we want to exploit this constraint area. Then third focus, subordinate everything else. So that means now align all other processes to support the constraint. That's called subordinate everything. Other departments should adjust their pace or activities to ensure that they do not overproduce or cause disruption to the constraint. Example, cutting and finishing should work in synchronize with the capacity of the sewing department, avoiding overproduction and excess inventory buildup. I think now you may have good idea about the three focus area. First, we have to identify the constraint, then exploit the constraint, then subordinate everything else. The fourth focus, elevate the constraint. Now we have to think how that 800 pieces bring into the next level. That means how we elevate the constraint. Can we make 1000 pieces even though other department potential to make 1200, sewing producing 800s? Now we have to work how we can bring that 800 into the 1000. If the constraint is still limit the system, then take action to increase its capacity. This could include investing more equipment, hiring additional staff, automation, or training to enhance the efficiency. So, example, based on our example, add an additional sewing line, bring in new machinery, or introduce better workflow design to increase the output. then repeat the process. That is the fifth focus. Once the original constraint is broken, another part of the system will eventually become the new constraint. Now, when we broke the solving constraint, that can be create another constraint in another department. So what we have to do, repeat the cycle to continue improving the overall system performance. So we have to repeat again and again. So continuous improvement is key. TOC, theory of constraint, is not a one-time fix, but a dynamic process of identifying and overcoming new constraints as they arise. So this is the summary version. Identify, so action, find the system weakest link, purpose, focus improvement where it matters most. Exploit, what is the action? Maximize use of the constraint, purpose, avoid waste of current capacity. Subordinate, align all other processes, ensure smooth flow and support. That is the purpose. Elevate, what is the action? Increase constraint capacity, purpose, enable higher system performance. Then the fifth one, repeat. Why we want to repeat action? Find the next constraint, drive continuous improvement. This is the summary. Then there can be different type of constraints. Now you can see there are mainly four type of constraints. First one, physical constraints. So as example, machines, materials we can consider as a physical constraint. Policy, it may be rules, procedures, okay, that is policy related constraints. Then market, when we consider the market, demand limitations. Sometimes there can be demand limitations. Then the behavioral type of constraint that is also very important. It may be resistant to the change. So there are so many constraints under main four of this type of constraints: physical constraints, policy constraints, market constraints, and behavioral constraints. So when we talk about the TOC tools and technique, the first one, it is called drum buffer ROF. Simply we call DBR. Then what is this? Drum buffer ROF is method used to manage the flow of material through a production system, ensuring that the system's constraint, so constraint means the bottleneck, determines the pace of the entire process. So drum, so that means constraint. The drum set the rhythm or pace of the production. So based on the drum, the rhythm will create. So because of that, we take drum as a constraint. So because based on the constraint, based on the constraint, the all production rhythm will create. It repeats the system's constraint, the slowest or most limiting process. All other operations must follow this speed to prevent overproduction and inefficiency. So because of that, drums we consider as a constraint. So constraint we consider as a drum. Then what is mean by buffer? Okay. Then buffer may be time or inventory protection. A buffer is placed in front of the constraint to ensure it never runs out of work. Okay. So it is a small amount of time or inventory to protect the constraint from delays upstream. What is the purpose of that? Shield the constraint from disruptions. So machine breakdown may be absenteeism. Okay, so those are the disruptions. Then drum, buffer, rope. So rope mean release the control. The rope is the communication mechanism that controls the release of raw material into the system. It ensures new work is only released at the rate of the constraint can handle, not past actually. So results prevent excess WIP and keep the production flow synchronized. So this is one type of tool and technique. It is called drum buffer rope. So drum create the rhythm, then buffer create the time or inventory for the protection activity. So rope is the release of control. Then there is another concepts also. So logical thinking tools. There are some logical thinking tools. It's called CRT, FRT, evaporating cloud. Okay, like that. So in here now you can see CRT. CRT mean current reality tree. So what is the purpose? To analyze the current situation, identify the core problems, and understand how they lead to various negative outcomes. So we'll discuss a little bit how it works. Now you can see in here, you begin by listening undesirable effects, the symptoms of problem you are facing. Then you connect them using cause effect logic. That means we have to find out the root causes. The result is a tree-like diagram that visually show how problems are interconnected. So because of that we call current reality tree. Why it is useful? Help pinpoint the real issue behind multiple symptoms. Avoid wasting time on treating surface level problem, because when we treating into the surface level problem, it will not give us the proper solution. So if we want to give the proper solution, we have to deep down and find out the root cause. Example, in sewing plant, complaints about low output, high rework, and overtime could all trace back to poor line balancing. So CRT would help reveal this connection. So finally, root cause is poor line balancing, but symptoms may be low output, high rework, overtime, like that. So based on that current reality tree, we can reveal the connection, and we can find out the root cause, and it will support to give the permanent solution also. Then future reality tree. So what is the purpose of future reality tree? To visualize the positive outcome that will result from implementing proposed solution. How it works, that is also important. You take a solution and build a tree showing the desirable effects it will create. You also anticipate unintended negative effects and address them early. The FRT shows the logical chain of benefits that results from solving the core problem. Why it is useful? Help evaluate whether a solution will truly solve the root problem, build a logical cause for why change is worth making. Example, if line balancing is improved, FRT would show a chain of result like better productivity, reduce rework, less overtime, improve employee morale, low absenteeism, like that. So this concept we call future reality tree. Okay. Then what is mean by evaporating cloud? Okay. It's called evaporating clouds. Okay. operating clouds, if not conflict resolution diagram. Purpose: to resolve conflicts or dilemmas where two opposing actions seems necessary but contradictory. How it's work? You identify the conflict and the underlying assumption that support it. Then you challenge these assumptions to evaporate the cloud. The goal is to find a win-win solution that satisfies both sides. Why it is useful? Helps break through deadlocks in decision making, promote collaborative problem solving instead of compromise. Example: conflict, we must produce more versus we must maintain quality. So there are some conflict. We want to produce more, we want to maintain the quality. Then operating cloud help find way to do both. Perhaps by adding inspection point or improving training, so quality is not sacrificed for the out. Okay. So summary of this: CRT, current reality tree, analyze the current problem. So output root cause map. What is the purpose? Identify what's truly broken. Then future reality tree, its focus design future state, output benefit chain, the purpose, validate and reinforce the solution. So your evaporating cloud, focus resolve conflicts, output win-win resolution, the purpose remove resistance to change. So these are the benefits of TOC: increase the throughput time, reduce inventory and lead time, improved resource utilization, enhanced delivery performance, simpler focus decision making. When consider the application of theory of constraints, we can apply TOC in manufacturing and production environment. Then if we want, we can apply in healthcare systems, project management, then retail and supply chain management also. Limitations and criticisms. Okay. So may oversimplify complex systems. So there are some criticisms. The one is may oversimplify complex system. The people can tell based on the theory of constraints, it's going to oversimplify the complex system. One constraint at a time focus. So that is the limitation, because at a time the people can focus only the one constraint. Require cultural and behavioral shifts. So that is also limitation. It's require cultural and behavioral shifts. The conclusion: TOC is a proven methodology for systemic improvement. Focus on constraint lead to measurable operational gains. Continuous improvement cycle ensure long-term sustainability. So before end up, I would like to just recap all things what we have discussed within very short time period. Today we are discussing about the theory of constraints. It introduced by Eliyahu M. Goldratt. Now you can see the introduction part developed by Dr. Eliyahu M. Goldratt in 1984 through the book called The Goal. So focus is identify and improve in the system's bottleneck to ensure the performance. The principle behind that, every system has a constraint that limits its output. So core concepts now you can see: constraint, throughput rate, inventory, operating expenses. So there are 5 focusing steps: identify the constraint, exploit the constraint, subordinate everything else, elevate the constraints, repeat the process. So this is the identify the constraint part, exploit the constraint, subordinate everything else, elevate the constraint, repeat the process. Then this is the summary. Okay. To identify, find the action is find the system weakest link, purpose, focus improvement where it's matter most. Exploit, action is maximize use of the constraint, purpose avoid waste of current capacity. Then subordinate, that is the third step. Action is align all other processes. Purpose ensure a smooth flow and support. Elevate, action is increase constraint capacity. Purpose enable higher system performance. Then finally, we have to repeat. The action is find the next constraint. Drive continuous improvement is the purpose. There can be different constraints, physical, policy, market, and behavioral. Then there are TOC tools and technique. Drum buffer off is one tool. In here, we define constraint as a drum. Time and inventory protection, we prepare as a buffer. Then ROF, we consider as a release of control. Then when we consider the logical thinking tools, there are mainly three types: CRT, FRT, and evaporating cloud. CRT mean current reality tree. Then FRT mean future reality tree. Then the evaporating cloud. Okay, if not, we can call it conflict resolution diagram. So this is the summary. CRT actually focus analyze current problem. The CRT's output is root cause map. Purpose identify what is truly broken. FRT focus the design future state. Output is benefit chain. Purpose validate and reinforce the solution. Evaporating cloud resolve conflict. Win-win resolution is the output. The purpose is remove resistance to the change. These are the benefit: increase throughput, reduce inventory and lead time, improve resource utilization, enhance delivery performance, simpler focus decision making. So we can apply this concept in manufacturing and production area, healthcare systems, project management, as well as retail and supply chain management. There can be limitations and criticism. The first criticism is this is may simplify complex systems. That is the criticism. So limitations, one constraint at a time focus. The second limitation is require cultural and behavioral shift. So conclusion, TOC is a proven methodology for systematic improvement. Focus on constraints lead to measurable operational gains, continuous improvements, cycle ensure long-term sustainability. So I think now you may have good knowledge about the theory of constraints. It's under management theory discussion. So I'm expecting to meet you with another management theory discussions as soon as possible. Thank you very much for your contribution to learn through these short video clips. Thank you.